Welcome to Season 2 of Strengths on Fire, the Great Strengths Debate.
Think you know CliftonStrengths? Think again.
This season, we're breaking down the biggest myths
Challenging conventional wisdom.
and showing you how strengths actually show up in leadership, life, and the messy middle of real work.
Sarah, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Let's light it up!
Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks, Mr. Dipple. How are you?
I'm perfect. I got a tea time coming up in about 3 hours.
I love that for us. I'm going to a pool party in like 3 hours.
Are you keeping up with Stick? You are on Apple TV?
No, I'm a few episodes behind, so don't spoil anything.
Oh, I'm not. I won't talk about it for you. I know how it is. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just impressed you're watching a golf show, knowing
it's not a golf show. It's a drama comedy on Apple TV Plus. It just happens to involve golf.
It's a golf show that happens to have drama comedy on it. Is really what it is.
Agree to disagree.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree on this one, but I feel safe in saying it's a good ride. His swing is great. They found an actor that definitely had taken some golf. So
yeah, it's a good compromise for us. It's a good show for the two of us, with you and the golf and me and the drama comedy of it all.
Right. Because I'm going to have a hard time getting into Shadow Daddies, and you're going to, you won't follow me into watching the PGA Tour. So, okay,
right.
I think it's a good
compromise.
Speaking of good compromises or interesting questions, your question today, you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Do generations, think boomer, millennial, Zs, really work differently? Are they different in CliftonStrengths, or is it all just hype?
Oh, such a good question. Okay, well, I love talking about generations, as we know.
I know. 'Cause you misrepresent me all the time. Go ahead.
Absolutely, right? And so here's a fascinating thing. I don't know if we've talked about on the podcast, but because I love thinking about generations, I'm always reading and listening and watching things. And you know how we have had a debate about the cutoff for Gen X and boomers for you, right?
Yes.
Well, I have heard the reason that it's so confusing is because they don't do generations by years. There's not like a set frame of years that marks one generation to the next.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
It's the technology and how the people in those ages are influenced by the technology, which is why it's so wishy-washy, because there's a lot of subjectiveness in determining what makes one generation different than the next.
Sure.
Right? And how the technology impacts them, which I think is just a fascinating thing to think about.
It is.
In terms of CliftonStrengths, I don't know that I've ever seen a difference. And I've worked with boomers, Xers, millennials, and even Gen Z. I recently just worked with a family. We did a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 17-year-old. So I this summer spent a lot of time with Gen Zers, and I see every mix of strengths in the generations. I couldn't say in terms of CliftonStrengths that I have seen, and I don't know if they have data points on this, and if they did, if they would share them with us, like certain strengths come up more or less. What do you think?
So the Gallup newsletter that us as coaches get frequently, and some of the larger
you read those?
I do, actually. And some of I know. Every now and then there's a lot of great data in there. And again,
there probably is. Please tell me more.
I'm just saying. And every now and then they do touch on the generational differences and some of the ways that the generations need to be approached for specific types of work. Quite often they work it around the idea of different generations look at remote work differently, which ones really bind to it, which ones don't. I experience the way I look at it is, and in my coaching component, I generally find it makes no difference. I get so much interest in different ways from every one of the generations and so many of the categories and themes that we work with. And I have specific instances in my mind where I have boomers that I'm working with that are experiencing the exact same problems with certain themes that I have some Gen Xers and some millennials working on. And I have some millennials that'll look at me and say, I think our entire generation is lazy, which I think is a stereotype, but they're saying it
Also,
about
I think
themselves.
that's not true at all. They're wrong, but sure.
And I don't necessarily agree with that, right? And I do find that people like to lump it in that category, and that's why I asked you. People really like those cutoff lines and the ability to feel like, hey, I understand something about you just because of this very broad tactical component. And I just don't find that to be the case. I find it gets really blurry around all the generations, and with some minor exceptions around maybe thoughts. And I've seen a bunch of themes right now about what is it, the Gen Z stare.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And I that blank stare, I've even used it over time. So I'm not certain that, I don't think we can give it Gen Z status per se. Somebody's asked me a question and I've been like, so
I find that hard to believe.
Again, yeah, maybe me too. But
I think,
yeah.
to your point, I think kind of like where they make the cutoff with the generations about technology, I think we typically see the most differences in the generations when it comes to how we use and interact with technology, and therefore how we interact with each other. Like, I think you can tell when you think about texting versus FaceTiming versus emailing versus, Slacking. I think the way we use those is different depending on our generations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that the way that then, like, even the internet, I think it's fascinating how, it took the Gen Xers and boomers a long time to get on social media and to start using smartphones. But now I almost feel like they're more addicted than the young people. The two groups I think who use their phones the most are boomers and Gen Zers. And I think the Xers and the millennials are like, hey, are you guys okay?
Everything all right?
And then everything all right? Also, that thing is not glued to your hand, just so you know. I saw my mother-in-law's screen time one time, and I was like, oh, don't you have a job? Like, what are you doing on your phone so long?
How is that happening? Well, to put a final point on this before we jump into the main topic today, the technology we're using right now, I've given you credit multiple times as both of us were asked we should do this, and I was like, I dragged my feet until a younger generational person came along that really kind of spurred it on. But when I talk about why I do it now, it's not because I'm afraid of the technology. It's because I'm afraid of letting you down or letting our guests down, which is, again, a relationship theme that spans all of the generations. Yeah. So in that, yes, I see the punctuations around technology, but again, my point, the themes carry through pretty consistently through the generations as I see it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna bring another generational person in on the podcast today. So I am always thrilled when I get to work with a guest that I get to know pretty well. Jessica is someone that I have worked with quite a bit here in the Reno area. Her and her family run an amazing logistics company. And one of the reasons I was super excited to work with the company is I love working with family-based companies because there are dynamics around themes and communication and being together that are different for families, I find. You can walk out of a job, but you're never going to walk out of the family per se. So I like that dynamic, and I like the ability to work with. So I pitched myself really hard at Full Tilt when we started talking, and I used that as exactly why I wanted to do this. And Jessica is part of that family, and so we're going to hit a different question. We're going to rehash an earlier question a little bit, but we're going to come at it from a different spin. But Jessica, I'd love for you to come on the show. Tell us your top 10. And then tell us what you do for Full Tilt Logistics.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So my top 10 is positivity, arranger, responsibility, belief, relator, developer, harmony, communication, connectedness, and includer.
Nice.
And I am the COO at Full Tilt Logistics. And so I I play a lot of different parts and wear a lot of different hats.
Including the podcast specialist that comes on when asked, right?
Now I'm a podcast girl. Yeah.
You are. You're the podcaster on it.
Put it on your resume.
Yeah.
Podcast
That's
check.
right.
And you're
Yeah,
coming at us
and-
with 6 relationship building themes, 3 executing themes, and 1 influencing theme. So heavy in that relationship domain.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
Which
And
after I did this, I was like, wow, it really makes sense why I love relationships. And
I
love
am the
building them.
relationship person. Sure, absolutely. And we talked earlier today about your how you feel around having some consistency in your life. You tend to be a consistency person.
Very.
And we see that arranger as number 2 in your world, where I need it, I want to put it in this specific mode and make it happen. But also I can pivot. There's some flexibility in arranger. Would you say that's fair?
I definitely think I can pivot. I do just love a schedule. I'm very consistent on the things that I do in my life. I find that if I, have something that I do, I consistently do it, same time, very routine. But if I do have to pivot, I am able to do that as well.
Nice. Excellent. So I also did a lead with the family at Full Tilt. So, so that people understand the depth of this family at this position or at this company, can you just broad stroke us with who's in what position and what relation they are to you?
Yeah. So there's 5 of us. So it's myself, my husband, Chris, my sister-in-law, Tiffany, brother-in-law, Nick, and then Nick and Chris's mother, my mother-in-law, Cindy. And my husband, Chris.
Ooh, hold on. Just wait 1 second. Ew.
That's
That's
a family
pause to
business right there.
Yeah.
punctuate that. That is putting the fam in family business.
Really is.
Really is.
And I've had the joy of working with every single one of them. Touch on what their roles are, positions.
Yeah. So Chris, my husband does the asset division. So actually the trucks that are running. Tiffany hits up the warehouse and distribution. And then Nick does the brokerage. Cindy was our CFO. She is slowly trying to retire. We're trying to get her out. And then I hit up like kind of the HR and the accounting, and I do some of the TMS, the software, marketing. And so I'm kind of in all 3, essentially.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I
a
have
lot
so
of
many
hat.
questions for you.
That's why I'm here.
I feel like I know that we're going to get into this today, but like my initial reaction is fear. I feel like that seems like a lot to deal with. Not only are you business partners with your spouse, which I think is really hard because you can't go home and leave work at work because work and home are the same. But then you add your brother-in-law, your husband's brother, your brother-in-law and his wife, and then your husband and his brother's mother. I mean,
Yes.
I know that's what all those words meant, but I just would like to, I just feel like it needs to point it out because I just feel like that's holidays, right? Birthdays, going home,
Sunday night dinners if we do them.
Sunday night dinners. I mean, work is home, home is work, even extended. All of those people are in the cookie pot. So tell me about that. How is that? How you doing?
Honestly, it's pretty great. I mean, definitely it's not always like rainbows and butterflies, but for the most part, it's pretty awesome. I think we do a good job of coming to work and then we really try and separate it like outside of work. Sure, there's instances where things come up and we're talking about it at a table, but sometimes Cindy's husband or if my parents are there are like, okay, that's enough, like we're here with family, like let's leave it, stuff. And we try and be mindful of that. But I think, where it's really awesome is there's 0 trust issues, right?
Yeah.
We're all in this ownership role together and we're all, we have the same goal, the same vision in mind. And the trust part is there. So we're not having to, wonder. The trust issue is the most important part, in my opinion. It's one of the biggest things that make us successful and thrive. Not only that, but we've done a really good job about putting the right people in roles that maybe we're not as good at or we don't understand. And so the people that we've put around us have really, helped us get to where we are now.
Yeah.
But family, it's fun. We tell people that, and they're just like, whoa. And you're like, well, I get it. But I think we've been doing it for, almost 10 years, over 10 years, 11 years. And so now it's just what we know.
Well, Sarah asked that, or came in saying my initialization idea was fear. How is this? I mean, that, and I get that would be spooky working with that. When coming into this, when you started this like 10 years ago, was there trepidation? Did you guys talk about that? Or did you just, we're going to figure it out as we go and dive in?
I definitely think it was, we're going to figure it out as we go kind of thing. And then we all kind of started at different times. So, Nick and Tiffany started the company in 2014. I came on pretty immediate. I had just had my first son, my firstborn, and wasn't really doing anything at the time. So they kind of needed some help. So I jumped in. And then Cindy was actually on her way to retiring. God bless her. And then they brought her back on to be the CFO. So now she's back wrapped in. And then Chris actually came on probably a year and a half later. He sold his practice for financial advising and jumped on. So we all kind of staggered on when we came on, and we all understood what the expectation was, and that we were all going to be very much meshed together in this company.
Nice. Fantastic. Wow. I kudos to you and the family.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sarah,
and I have to imagine we're here today because our big debate question for the Great Strengths debate is, can competition ruin the culture? And you, as we just heard, do not have competition in your top 10. In fact, competition comes for you at 18. So this is not something that you personally have, but from what I hear, some other in the company / the family, they do lead with competition. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. It is. Nick, Tiff, and Chris all have competition in their top 10, and two of them, I believe it's
in their top 5.
In their top 5, yeah. So it's high for that, all three of them.
So I think that makes this a fascinating question for you, because competition doesn't necessarily ruin cultures. And we had a fantastic discussion previously with Brandon about competition, and he thinks it's a superpower. We are really curious and want to talk to somebody that has to experience it day in, day out, especially in both a family dynamic and an office dynamic. Mm-hmm. How does that play out for you? So from that competition component, do you think it ruins cultures? Do you think it's a superpower? Where do you think that sits for you?
It's interesting because I think there is two different. And I don't think it's ever a terrible thing. But for instance, if we're having, we have shareholder meetings or ownership meetings. So we're all in there together, and maybe we're analyzing the 3 different entities, the warehousing and distribution, which Tiffany hits up, the asset side, which Chris hits up, and then the brokerage, which Nick hits up. And then here I am, I'm kind of floating in all 3. I work kind of with everybody. But when we start analyzing a specific company, or maybe pointing out things that, could be going better or anything, you kind of see the person that runs that company just get a little bit, not defensive, but just kind of like, hey, well, all right, and that kind of varies in all 3. So and it's just interesting because when you're in it and you have other people outside of it, you point out maybe things that could be going a little bit better. But when it's your lane, you tend to get a little bit more,
and somebody else is pointing it out for you.
Exactly.
Right?
So, and that's kind of always interesting to see. But I would say longevity wise, it turns out to be a good thing, essentially, and I think we all realize that, because when you're in it so deep, maybe you need an outside perspective to kind of show you or talk to you about, hey, these are things that I'm noticing, or, so I think that that's a good. And I will say, like, when we're all together and because we're under one umbrella and looking at maybe like a competitor, and you have that competition, that's where, it's really wonderful because, hey, we're okay. Well, that company, like we can do that, so that's where that really brings it out, I would say. So I don't know that it would necessarily ruin the culture. I think that there's certain instances where it can get a little bit heated, but I think that overall I think it's a huge asset.
Well, and I'm curious how you show up in the mix, because you don't have that competition and you have high harmony. So do you find yourself being the peacekeeper between these high competitors?
I feel like I'm, yes, a peacekeeper in a lot of instances.
Are you Switzerland? Is that what's happening?
That is. Yeah, I'm just, I have my opinions, but I'm really kind of just even keeled. I don't try and get too fired up, Which I think actually, who else? I think Chris has high harmony.
I believe he does. Let me
Yeah,
look
but
real
I
quick.
don't think Nick and Tiff are high harmony.
Yeah, Chris has harmony number 4.
Which honestly, I love him. He's my husband, but that shocks me a little bit.
Well, it's interesting to have that high harmony and high competition. I have a client who has both of those. And I love, strengths are a puzzle. The way that they show up is a little bit different for everyone. And we, even as coaches, don't know exactly what do two strengths next to each other look like, because for each person it looks different. And so it is fascinating, though, when you are a coach and you're talking to someone and they have kind of those what we think of as contradictory strengths, to see how they show up. Because someone with high harmony like you, who has all like 5 other relationship building themes around it, that's probably going to look different than your husband, who has it with competition and I don't even know what other strengths. And so, that though is probably the way you use that harmony is going to just inevitably look different, and to see like how it comes up, because harmony not only can be the peacekeeper, but can want everyone going in the same direction, right? Like, let's get everyone on board. So like,
that's true for him. I would say he's definitely the one that's trying to like put the ship in the same direction. You know what I mean? Like steer everyone the same way. That's definitely, I would say, a quality that he has for sure.
And I'd be curious, does he have that sort of, again, totally speculating here, but because he has competition, I'm just going to make some big, broad speculation strokes. Like, if he has an idea of what he thinks can elevate the company, then he's like, hey, we should do this. Everybody get on board and come with me this way, because this is the way that we can win.
It's a very accurate speculation.
Yeah, and Sarah, good pick from far away with not seeing it. He has responsibility number 2 and significance number 3. So, I mean, that gives you that we are going to make this better, right? Our name will be on this building. It will be as good as we can do. And then he rounds it out, number 5, with futuristic. So he definitely tends to he likes thinking about where it's going and how to get you there, Jessica. And that is a superpower Chris brings to that. But I want to touch on another one here, because Sarah brought this up in a really good way, and that was all that competition, and then your harmony kind of sits back and has to kind of work with that. So I get the joy of working with Tiffany frequently. I find Tiffany really amazing. But Tiffany is activator, communication, woo, competition, command, and maximizer, all in her top 10. All influencing themes. The only other part she has is futuristic is number 3, but then she has positivity, ideation, and adaptability. So there is a ton of orange in your CEO position.
Yes.
And then we look at your arranger and your harmony, and where we start working together. And then in another way, your relationship is by marriage, not by blood. So that could also have a subtlety play here. So when you hear those parts of Tiffany and and work with her so closely and so frequently, how does that sit with all of those relationship themes that you built?
I think, I love working with Tiff, and we're very different. And I think the way that we work, right? She does have a lot of influencing, and you can see it. She has the ability to influence people to kind of do what's needed. Her sales skills are incredible. She really can pitch something great, and she's very likable. She's wonderful. So for me, I enjoy working with her. My thing is, I'm not going to go and talk to somebody and convince them on why they should, do something, or that's just not me. But I'll go talk to somebody and, build a relationship, and, and that's where the different strengths that I've learned really come into play. We all have a different part that we bring, and when we kind of do it together is where we really succeed.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. So, and I think that that's for me, it's been the best thing about working with you is that before this, you didn't realize what our assets were and how our assets played in to the business. And now that I think that we are, diving into that, and we have now these tools, we're able to take it and, run with it and understand, like, okay, well, I'm not strategic. I don't think I have hardly any strategic, and that's fine. I understand that.
Yeah, you do not. It doesn't even start until 15 on yours.
Yeah, and that's okay. I've never really been a strategic person,
Totally.
but teaming up with someone who is strategic, or that's where this has been incredible for us, and has really given us just kind of given us tools to really succeed and understand that just because we're not great in something doesn't mean that we're not great somewhere else.
Yeah. And working with your team, you guys are phenomenal in so many ways. The model that we used to come into Full Tilt was we started with the C-suite and the family, and we worked on family dynamics and upper management dynamics and how do we communicate. We even went through a goal setting and alignment tool early on with your team that said, how do you feel? What do you want to be in X number of years? But also, do you feel you're hitting on all of these cylinders? And we actually got some very different results from different members of your C-suite, which is great because we can now vet those out. Some of you had ideas in different ways about your long-term goals and your short-term goals and where you might sit. And it's great that we can sit in a room and look at each other's strengths and see she's going to come at this from a relationship point of view, and we can talk about this aspect that we see very differently. And now we know why we see it differently. That's been a really powerful coaching moment with Full Tilt for me from a coaching point of view. Do you find those moments of clarity really helpful? Oh,
I think they're hugely helpful, especially we never would have had this information or known any of this, and I think to see the different that when we did like the 5-year goal or like all of that, and you see it on paper for different individuals, it kind of is just like, whoa, okay, like some align and some are just really different, know? Yeah. And I think it was good too, because we also did that with like the management team, which I don't think we've seen yet. So I'm very excited to get those back as well and just see how much aligning there is, or are we like way off, Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see that. But I agree. I think it was really great to see those on paper and kind of get everyone's aspect, different perspective. Because there's things that we thought.
Train.
Was that a train?
I have a train in my neighborhood. I don't know how it's never gone by before when we've been recording, but we have a train in our backyard.
Sarah, do you live near a train track? That was impressive. So,
sorry for the rude interruption. Choo choo train. Imagine it coming by at 3 in the morning.
That was really good. I love the sound of a good train, so no complaints.
Don't worry, when we bought this house, they said, don't worry, that train track hasn't been active in decades. And then months after we moved into this house, they were like, we're actually going to start running the train on the track again. I was like, cool.
Love that.
right when you signed on the dotted line.
Yeah. That's right.
So Jessica, and so that our listeners know, yes, that same survey that we did with the C-suiters, what we do traditionally with a company of this size is we then go down to the directorship and give them the exact same assessment. Some subtle wording differences around management, non-management, but it is asking the majority of the same questions around the same frameworks. And then from a coaching aspect, once we aggregate those, because those are confidential, we don't just share them with management because we want them to be very honest about where they feel there are really good points and maybe some rough spots at working for Full Tilt. And then once we aggregate those, that gives us a wonderful view of how management sees how everyone's working and how the next level of management sees it, the directorship. And when you're in perfect alignment, some of my companies are that way. They've worked that way. Now we know, we heat map it so we know what the least common is for both of you, and then that's what we attack first. When they don't align, and I would say that's about half of the time, when they are completely out of alignment, we've got a lot more work to do up front. We've got to get the messaging consistent from upper management to lower management so that we're all aware of what our strong points are and the things that we're going to start working on. So I love that tool because it very valuably shows what you and your group are bringing and what maybe the rest of the company's bringing.
Well, and I mean, our brokerage is 11 years old. The transportation side is 8 and the warehousing is now 3. So the amount that we've grown in such a short time, we've put people in positions, promotions, management that maybe have never managed before. Or, and that's why this has also been so helpful to kind of understand like their strengths and other individual strengths that they're managing and how to treat those people and what they need. That's like my favorite thing. Like, what do I need? That tool, that sheet of paper.
Yes, the I need sheet.
Yes, that's been extremely helpful because you now just understand what people need to be successful and what they also bring to be, and that's been a huge tool for us thus far alone. So it's been great.
I'm curious, because you've got these folks in high level positions with competition, do you feel like at times they're secretly ranking each other, even if no one says it out loud? Like, are they overtly competitive? You sort of mentioned sometimes when we're talking about different people's like departments or areas, they can be, a little defensive or, thinking about like their area. I'm just wondering, do you think that there is like secret ranking of like who is the best? Are they overtly saying that? How does that like come out?
I think that the nice thing about working with family is there's a lot of honesty. So I definitely think, there's times when it's like, okay, well, we're rocking and rolling over here, and maybe, and secretly, sure, maybe, but we're very blunt about things to each other, especially in a room with all 5 of us. And, it's funny because sometimes we're all in there and you have the two married couples, you got me and Chris, and then Nick and Tiff, and, naturally married couples kind of team up. It's just how it is sometimes. And then you just have Cindy like, no, like calm down, like stop. You know what I mean? The Cindy's
She's got, like referee everybody.
In that case, she turns into like the peacemaker, like the ref, like, well, So there's been a few of those that are looking back, it's comical. It's not probably very comical at the time, but
right.
So stuff like that. But I think that there's definitely that need of competition, like obviously like wanting to perform the best or wanting, to be in that. I think that there is some of that, but like I said, it's a blunt deal. And that's the good thing about the family. There's no really hidden secrets or, everything's kind of on the table.
Do you think that influences the culture at large then? Do you think that the rest of the organization has sort of an openness, playfulness with each other? Is the way the family acts at the top kind of trickle down to everybody for the overall culture?
Yeah, and I think that's something that we're super proud of, is that we do kind of mess around with each other and have fun. It's a really tough industry. I mean, the trucking industry is not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of issues, problems constantly. So, our mentality is, honestly, it's cliche, but like we play hard and we work hard. And we do like to have fun, and that does trickle down to the entire organization, and we're not against that, because you have to have fun in this industry, and we still work hard, but there has to be a little bit of a lightness to it, or it'll eat you up. And we go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, are there any rituals that you have in place that has been inspired maybe by those more competitive folks about, like, do you do like game plays, when you have team get-togethers and things, or is it kind of competitive focused?
Yeah, so we do a company picnic like once a year. It's actually in September. We run out a huge space, and we have a cornhole tournament that gets pretty aggressive, very competitive. And we actually get a trophy for it, and whoever wins, the trophy's on their desk, and it's a big thing. We also just started like the monarch of brokerage. So someone gets crowned every week, who's really performing. So it's this email goes out. We bring everyone in. There's like 3 coworkers say something about them. So that's pretty neat. We do fun stuff like that. We just started, we do like a quarterly luncheon, and we just decided, our HR director, Danny, and then Katie, who's actually worked with Bill quite a bit, kind of set up, most likely, I just won most likely to clap when the plane lands. So we do
like superlatives.
Yeah. So we do that every quarter for like 3 people, which has been super funny because they're just so random off the wall, and then people will vote on like who that person is. So I don't like flying, so that was pretty accurate
Yeah.
for me.
Nice.
But so stuff like, we try, but it does fall under a lot of competitiveness for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see
So-
that at the top there, it bleeding down. And actually, it sounds like it's been a way to bring levity, lightheartedness, connection to the overall organization, that competition.
Yeah, and the culture we've created is truly amazing, and it's something that we are really proud of.
Yeah. I echo that because as I've worked with you, your culture is something that's drawn me. And as I said, I was really excited to start working with Full Tilt, knowing that family dynamic. But another thing that brought me in and grabbed me right away was, I think either our first or very early on one of our meetings, you told me that our company culture is to hire from within. We want everyone here to be family and moving up in the family rankings. So we will always try to hire from within and then fill at the bottom instead of, bringing in outside and up high and have that mesh and fit. And just having that thought process of having people that we know and have been in the role and allowing them to feel, I have to assume for all of that relationship and harmony that you're building, that is a key part of what you bring and what you love about Full Tilt.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we have so many connections and people that have known each other outside of Full Tilt and that are now working together, and to see them work together, we've had relationships spark that have turned into marriage, and they just had their first child together. We have people that are married in different departments that, it's just been friends of friends for years that have come on, and we've just seen that referral process just really work great for us. And it just adds to that kind of family dynamic and this fun culture because people are so comfortable around each other. So that's been, for me, I mean, the people that we have at Full Tilt is my biggest pride, honestly.
Yeah, you can
It's
hear
been
that
awesome.
in your voice there. I'm curious, thinking about the competition. Are there departments where there is embedded competition? I'm just thinking of like numbers, metrics, status. Is there any of that built into sort of the fabric of the way people do their jobs or not?
I'd say it's hard because the different departments are so different on like what they're working on, kind of what they're doing. The brokerage, they're basically contracting carriers to move freight. So, they're negotiating rates with carriers constantly. Whereas like the asset side, we pretty much have set rates with customers. We're just trying to provide, and same with brokerage, like the service aspect of it. And then warehousing and distribution, they're obviously docking, moving freight out of trucks. The nice thing is that they all work together. It's like the three legs, and so trans is probably moving a load for the brokerage side that needs to get transported to the warehouse to get unloaded, or so it's like a cohesiveness. So if they all work together, so they want to all succeed together. So there's not, in that aspect, there's not really, it's more of a unified instead of more of the competition driven, I would think, there between the divisions.
Yeah. Really a we versus
I think
me.
I think the two times we've talked competition, Sarah, I can't get anyone to say competition's a bad thing. I keep hearing.
Stop trying.
No, I don't. Well, and I don't think any of them are bad, right? I think they're all very workable and coachable moments. I just like, Jessica, hearing your instances of where competition from a long-term point of view has been really helpful, really.
Yeah.
But we've all seen, especially family dynamics, when competition, steps on each other. I do cornhole tournaments, right, with my family. It gets pretty heated. I'm sorry, Sarah, bags, or
Yeah,
what
we
is
call
it,
it
bags.
bags.
Oh, not cornhole. Okay.
Yeah,
we
but
had
I know
that
what you
debate
mean.
earlier.
Us staying West Coasters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
darn it, we ruin it all.
You think we would call it
we,
cornhole since we have all the corn here, but we call it
You-
bags.
Yeah.
That's a good
It's
point.
like redundant to call it cornhole,
Must be. And I think we can all resonate a little bit with that competition and family, even in a work environment that's non-family baked, right, where the divisions are having a little bit of ideals around where we go. What we coach around a lot in that, when there is competition across those, can be silos. And the idea of silo components within a company. Do you find that something you have to keep an eye on at Full Tilt? Or do you feel that the way that you're talking about transpo coming from and bringing it to the warehouse, that breaks down that silo effectively for you?
So, yeah. And as far as silos, so like the question for that, like I'm not fully understanding.
So yeah, a silo, it would be
like the specific entity.
Yeah, does transportation sometimes wall themselves off so that they don't want to communicate with X, right? Or does warehousing sometimes want to get in a knife fight with brokerage because this is right? So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I understand that one. Yes, there has been some heated instances for sure. And that's where we've had. Well, I'll tell you a little story. We actually had an instance where we were in Canada, and I don't know, Canada bridges are on kilometers. We're no longer in the US. We're not working with feet. And one of our drivers miscalculated the bridge and drove the truck under the bridge, which essentially took off the entire part of the trailer.
Oh, no.
And this trailer we were hauling was a customer of the brokerage. So in that instance, yes, you have, that sales rep for brokerage wanting to knife transportation.
Yeah. Look, transpo. Yeah.
So stuff, definitely there are huge instances that will kind of headbutt together, and especially when you got the two guys at the top, Nick and Chris, because now we're in an instance where there's a claim. Mm-hmm. And there's two parties involved. You have the brokerage party and the transportation party. Well, who's going to pay this claim? Right? So that's where these get dicey. There's a little bit more tension because nobody wants to pay a claim. Right. So how do we come to an agreement on how we're going to do it? Things like that. So this is where, and it's the same for warehousing. If there's freight that maybe gets, damaged on a truck or because they didn't strap it correctly and then maybe that's a contracted carrier with the brokerage.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a lot of instances within that things can go wrong and it kind of, there's some headbutting going on between the entities. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Sarah, what do you think? Does our debate question come around to starting to add to this?
Well, I think what I am hearing is if you can leverage your competition in your organization to build community.
That's a good point.
Instead of making it feel like a leaderboard, I think that is where you will find the most success. And this is a great segue actually into our LinkedIn poll for this week. The question was, can competition ruin the culture of a team or a workplace? And 67% said yes, if not coached or guided. 25% said not if used wisely. 8% said only when values clash. And 0% said no, it drives performance. So I think what we're really hearing there is it's got to be managed just like every theme. Okay, there is no theme that can go kind of unchecked. I think that's what we're learning this season in the debate is it really depends on the coaching, the team, the mentoring around the themes. And so what I hear is, Jessica, obviously your team has brought in Bill. You all have been getting coached. You know your talents. You went into this family org and realizing that, let's all get on the same page about what we're doing here and who we are and what talents we bring. And because of the talents and that high competition, it sounds like you have used maybe intentionally or unintentionally the competition on the leadership team has influenced a wonderful community feel, a family feel for the entire organization, right? The friendly debates, the playfulness, the actual, the cornhole tournaments, all of that things, it helps infuse togetherness, which I think competition can do a lot.
And I agree with that. And I think a lot of it too is that because, the competition, we've created this kind of vision on where we want to go to, and we've kind of spread that down, I think, into the organization as well. So I think for us, there's moments where it's been, a little bit tense, but overall, I think that it's been an asset for us.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I'm sure there's people out there who work with competition where it's not the same. I'll give you an example. This is a family example and not a professional example, but my husband has competition at 6. And it is a story of legend in their family, in his family of origin, that on holidays they would play Monopoly. And guess who would often flip the board? My husband.
Mm-hmm.
Because that competition, right? So there's and now it's funny because now everyone's adults and grown up, and he has managed that. But as a young child, he would get mad and flip the board, right? When it wasn't going his way. And I see this in my 7-year-old son. He cannot lose to save his life. Every time he loses, he is in tears. And it reminds me of what Brandon Miller said. If you go to episode 4 for season 2, we talked to Brandon Miller about competition as well. And he, I think, said something along the lines of, if competition can't win, they don't even want to play. And I see that in terms of gameplay with my son, who hasn't managed it. And I know that my husband had it before he was old enough to develop and grow to manage it. And I think about if you were to look at that in a workplace, how it could come out if it wasn't managed.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think about my son too. Now that I'm well, when we play Madden or the show and I'm winning, he just will accidentally be oh, it turned off. And I'm like, what? maybe that's what he's doing, shut it off because he doesn't want to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny.
It's so funny, and it's interesting because I'm similar to you, Jessica, where I have positivity and I have harmony and I have all of these strengths where I literally couldn't care less if I win or lose. I never play expecting to win, and that's also just from a lifetime of losing.
Well, and it's interesting too because I was a collegiate athlete. I played softball at the University of Nevada, and in that setting, I felt like I was pretty competitive. So when I got my strengths back and I saw that, I was like, "Dang, really?" Which is interesting. But in the workplace, I don't feel that need to, I don't feel that need in the workplace. But in softball, I did.
Oh yeah.
So it's been interesting to see. But yeah, positivity, and I can clearly say I'm the one that comes in and, good morning, very bubbly, and I try and be bubbly with everyone. So that's why sometimes the low harmony, I'm don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love my days where I have to call Jessica and we're going to talk about other things and work on it because I'm going to get a dose of positivity in that morning. It's always really fun. And also, I don't want to leave Tiffany out of that mix too. Tiffany has positivity as well.
Very bubbly. Yeah.
Bubbly. But when it comes down to getting down to work, right?
Totally.
Tiffany is on it.
Turn it on.
And all of those influencing themes rise right to the top. You had said, I don't want to be the one convincing somebody. I'm the one that'll build the relationship.
No, but she will do that.
Oh, yeah.
She will convince.
I did a speech at a logistics conference up at TMCC. And so did she. And boy, watching her get on stage, I will convince everybody in here about what we do well and how I've done it.
And she killed it.
Yeah, our process, she did great. She was phenomenal at it. And she mentioned buildable strengths coaching as part of the process. So I couldn't, I didn't want to, couldn't dog that. That's pretty phenomenal. But and watching her, the way that both of you use your positivity differently. Hers is definitely wrapped in an orange wrapper being used. While yours definitely has that blue feel to it on I'm just going to keep building the relationships and taking them in. And she's using them to guide and push and make the rudder. So, yeah. And as far as the rudder goes, or the push, or the moving forward, we always ask this question on our podcast. So can you give me a firework moment from your strengths, a moment when your strengths really shined, one of those top 5, 10 for you, and it's something where you went, oh man, I definitely see this working, and I love this part of this strength. When is that really on fire for you?
I think 2 of them come to mind. Positivity for sure, because there are a lot of instances where I don't think we have a whole lot of positivity. Not that they're not positive, but I think me coming in and being in a meeting when it's tense or something, and I don't know, saying something ridiculous or trying to lighten the mood, I've noticed a few times has really helped. And then my other one, I'd say responsibility that I've noticed. And sometimes, and we've talked about this, it can get me in a little bit of trouble because I do feel the need to kind of say yes to everything. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have my to-do list is what am I doing? But there's been instances where I plan the entire picnic by myself and there's a lot to it. And when it comes together, I'm really like, it's a really prideful moment for me, because I'm like, I have to do this by this. There's like deadlines. And so I'd say those two are ones that I really, have seen moments of me kind of reflecting and being like, okay, and recognizing these two. And I've looked at other ones and been like, well, what is that? When have I used that? So you start to look at your strengths and been like, okay. And that's what's been fun for me. Cause before you're doing things because they're a strength, but you're not realizing that they're a strength and you just are doing them because, that's what you do.
Yeah.
So now kind of putting it together and realizing has been pretty amazing. And I think I speak for the whole organization on that. Cause I know every time that you come in and you do those little, get everyone together.
Our team meetings. Yeah.
Yeah. But just and walking through and everyone comes out of those meetings like, that was incredible. Like that was really cool, and so that's been really awesome.
Oh, please say more. No, go ahead. No, totally.
Bill's just using this podcast as a testimonial for his website.
I will. He's got ours.
I love it. That's good. Well, so we asked the good one, the firework moment. When are you feeling the flow and how is that handling? Mm-hmm. Is there a time or a moment where one of your strengths turns into a dumpster fire for you? Is there one that gets in your way and then you're like, man, I wish that was not the strength I would have used in this situation?
I think harmony and includer.
Give me an example. Give me
harmony for me, and this is, I see, like, for instance, if we have to let somebody go or there's an instance where we're having to write somebody up, I find myself in those moments extremely uncomfortable because I know I'm going to go into kind of a conflict situation, so I just want it to be just very, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it. And then includer, I feel like can get me in trouble a little bit because I do want everyone to feel included, or I maybe don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And so I want to, and I think that that's gotten me in some issues because maybe that person wasn't right to be in that spot, or, I did the wrong thing. I didn't manage them correctly. And so that kind of got in the way of that. And then it created kind of a bigger mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those two I've noticed have been gotten me in a little bit of sticky situations.
And as you pointed out, you oversee the HR department a bit. So
I do oversee the HR.
That write-up firing moment is a little more real for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm involved in so I know every single HR in, company wide. And, there's not a ton, but we have 86 employees. So there's some. And so just having to be a part of all those it's been new. It's been good. It's also helped me kind of learn all the individuals and kind of the inside things that are going on. So I think that paired with the work we've done with you has been really pretty tremendous and eye-opening.
Yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would also like to congratulate you on high communication, because I'm hearing it the whole time you're here, right? I'm going to communicate. I'm going to be clear. You're going to know what I'm saying. I will know it and get it out. So kudos on the communication side.
Thank you. Yeah. It's also one of my majors in college, communication. Nice. And to be honest, the first time I had to get up and do a communication speech in college, I froze up and had to sit down and go another day because I was so scared. So I've come a long way.
You got to invest in those talents. Yeah. The more we invest in them, the stronger those strengths get.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't mean they don't scare us sometimes, because they certainly can and do.
Sure.
Yeah.
And will.
Yeah. I think one of my main takeaways from today is going to be strengths never ruin a culture. Misalignment, miscommunication, that ruins culture, not strengths.
Yeah. I love the idea of misuse of strengths. Living in the basement, or the immature usage of the strength, is probably the dangerous section, not the strength that we possess and where we have. And of course, Sarah, you and I have been through the Gallup training to know that from a coaching point of view. But it's actually pretty gratifying to hear it out in the world being used in that same way, because strengths-based cultures like Jessica's at Full Tilt understand and start to see, oh, I do get why the competition is working and where it worked better for Chris or Nick or Tiffany moving forward on that project. Like when we got there, that competition helped. But we also know we can have those dumpster fire moments on any of these. And I think the question isn't what one theme might hurt a culture. It's more, how are we misusing any particular theme that can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Pay attention when you're thinking of culture, of what are you fueling? Are you fueling the competition, or are you fueling the connection building? Are you fueling the community? And staying focused on what you're putting power and energy into, and having that we versus me mentality a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good, and of course, we would say hire a coach. Bring one of us in to start talking about what this looks like, and how we know that the people in the right spots are using the right themes, and how we can up those themes to make sure that they're being energized and fueled by the work that they're doing, and how we might want to step away from some positions or some part of the work that they have to do based on something that really demotivates them. And how can we make sure management knows that, the people know it, and get them all in alignment? That's how I see our job, Sarah, is making sure that engagement is high and hitting on all levels. So, yep. And Jessica, I love that you brought up a couple of the good things that we're doing with your company. Yeah. It has been a true joy, a pleasure to work with the family. Like you, I keep trying to get Cindy out of the chair. I want her to move on, right? I know. She's amazing.
I mean, too, I think, she enjoys it. I mean, she gets to come in and see her kids, it's pretty great. And she's coming in Monday and Tuesday, and, she's not working the full week, but I think she comes in, does some work, sees her kids, gets a dose, and then goes to Great Eagle. Yep. Her vacation home. So
and goes and relaxes and
exactly.
has a good week, week to weekend, and does what she does. So so I'll keep working on it. I promise. She won't listen to the podcast, I'm guessing. So
well, maybe we'll see.
Maybe we'll get it. The good news is you'll get all the feedback for the podcast from all the group you're working with. So and I'm sure I'll hear about it in my next roll in. So, and we have to talk about that too. Apparently, we have a change in the newest meeting at your group. So we're gonna talk about that in a moment. So awesome. Well, Jessica, having you come talk to us, be able to highly define where competition falls, why it works so well for so many people, even though you don't possess it, that's a communication superpower. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And Sarah, as always, I love our Fridays. So thanks for doing this with me, and we'll keep moving, and we're going to put a bunch more out. We've got, what are we, about a quarter way into this season? Is that what I looked at? Quarter, half? I don't know.
Don't know.
Do you know?
No.
Don't know. Haven't looked. Again, she refused to do any of the technical. Apparently, I have to put them all together. So I get it. I love it. All right. Well, thanks. Thank you, Jessica, for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time today.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Sarah.
And thanks for the hard work at Full Tilt. You guys, you're doing a lot of hard work with it, and bringing us in and making that easier for you has been rewarding. But that takes hard work too. So thanks for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. And with that, we will say goodbye to our arsonist, our guest, and I'll say goodbye to Sarah, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at sarahcoachcollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at billdipple.com, BillDippel.com, or on Instagram at BillDippleCoach, or email him at bill@billdipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.